let's just jump into it right now. The most impressive team through the first weekend of the men's NCAA tournament is?
He's easily Duke, easily Duke. And in fact, I felt this way about Duke for about a month now, and a lot of the numbers bear this out. Your favorite website, Ken Palm, the numbers, the numbers that Duke have been putting up in their metrics and their efficiency numbers are historic. I think there may only be one other team, and that may have been 2015 Duke, if I'm not mistaken, in the history of that site, which goes back to 1997. And people can say, well, the ACC. Couple things. First of all, that's baked into the numbers, the level of your competition. That's number one. Number two, hugely underrated how hard it is to beat even a team like Wake Forest by 35 points. I mean, it's one thing to win the game and win it convincingly, but you constantly beating teams by 20, 30 points. And then they had a game against Illinois, which last I checked is not in the ACC, Madison Square Garden, late February. They beat Illinois by 47 points, biggest loss in the history of the Illinois program. And Illinois, 8 days later, went to your favorite town, Ann Arbor, and beat Michigan by 20 points. Michigan's in the Sweet 16. So people have been, if you can say they're underrating Duke, I think they've been underrating Duke. And, Baylor's obviously not a great team. That's why they were an 8 seed. But you saw in that second round game what Duke is able to do. And the differentiator really with this team, Rich, is their defense. They've been one of the top defensive teams in the country, and they're also the tallest team in the country. So you not only have 7'2" Common Malawach at the rim, and Cooper Flagg is a great help side defender, but you've got a point guard at the point of attack. Sion James is 6'6", and Tyrese Proctor is 6'4", and Con Knippel 6'7". So they have size, length all around, which means they can survive a bad shooting game. But when they shoot it as well as they did against Baylor, they're literally unbeatable.
Yeah, a couple things there. First of all, you're right. Ken Palm is my favorite site because I checked with my doctor to see if Ken Palm was right for me. So, but that was years ago.
You are the side effects.
You know what? Exactly. But outside of that, our friend Jay Billis called Cooper Flagg the greatest freshman Duke's ever had a couple weeks ago. Yeah, my eyebrows raised as well when he said that. And there is some chatter, amongst fans that this is potentially the best Duke team ever. Where do you stand on that sports talk radio type of subject, Seth?
Well, I guess we can't. It's actually an interesting question because I guess we can't even have the conversation for another couple of weeks, right? But do you have to? Isn't that kind of silly though? Like, if you lose one game, does that make you not? Like, some people could argue the 1999 Duke team with Elton Brand, Trajan Langdon, William Avery, Corey Maggette, that was the best Duke team. They lost twice that season, but one of them happened to be in the national championship game to UConn in a one possession game. So, and again, a lot of this can be analyzed in the data. I think there's probably a case to make, like when you said about the strongest freshman, the guy that popped into my head is Zion Williamson. If you look at the numbers that he put up, now they lost in the Elite Eight. So, how do you factor that in? But just the fact that we're talking about, given the history of this program, that it's even a conversation should tell you where. Now, that doesn't say they can't be beat, Rich, but I'll say, I always kind of start with, if every team in the tournament plays their A game, if they play as well as they can play, who's the best team? I thought it was Duke for a while, and it's why I picked them on the selection show to win the championship.
Who's the most dangerous team in the Sweet 16 in your estimation? And that means we're not talking about them. We don't think they can win it all, but look out because there's a glass slipper because it's March Madness.
Well, if you're talking about the sort of not talking about them, that I mean, I was going to say Florida. Obviously, people are talking about Florida, but I don't know that we're talking enough about Houston, both in terms of what this team can do and historically. Kelvin Sampson took over the job at Houston in 2015. The last time before that day that Houston had won a game, Rich, a game in the NCAA tournament was 1984 when Akeem Olajuwon won. He wasn't even Hakeem yet; he was still Akeem. That's how down Houston was. Now, it takes more than a coach, so they had unbelievable support and being able to build the Fertitti Center and getting their facilities up to snuff. And now they've joined the Big 12, so they've turned it into a power conference program. But he's been to an Elite Eight, he's been to a Final Four. Last year, They were in the Sweet 16 against Duke, lost their All-America point guard, Jamal Shead, in the opening minutes, still almost won the game, lost in the Sweet 16. So you just kind of wonder, like, one of these coaches and programs that's constantly knocking on the door. How about this? Everyone talks about their defense, their toughness, offensive rebounding, all important things. They are number one in the country in 3-point percentage. And they brought in, I mentioned Jamal Shead, who's now in the NBA, Rich. They brought in a point guard from Oklahoma, Milos Uzan, which is not only really hard to follow someone like Jamal Shead, but Jamal Shead had been in that program for a number of years, and the previous point guards have been in that program a number of years. So it was kind of a double whammy. And then Uzan, by the way, got hurt in the summer, so he missed a lot of the preseason stuff. Took him a minute to get going, but he's been playing as well as any point guard in the country this season. So yeah, Houston absolutely has a legit, good job beating a really good Gonzaga team. They've got another team ahead in Purdue. Everybody plays somebody good in the Sweet 16, but make no mistake about it, Houston's absolutely good enough to win this thing.
Catch the Rich Eisen Show live weekdays from 12 to 3 p.m. Eastern on Roku Sports Channel in the U.S.